Hi folks, my name is Gerdes and I'm just a professor trying to help provide context in the war in Ukraine. If you watch my channel at all, you know that I'm both a Republican and I'm deeply committed to supporting Ukraine. And so it's maddening to see what's happening, particularly with the MAGA wing of the Republican Party. I consider myself a Reagan Republican. It's something different. It's the old school kind of conservative. But I'm troubled when I see things like this. This was just today, more humiliation. This is from Jay in Kyiv, more humiliation for the American people at the hands of a U.S. Congress frozen by Russian interests, as Kremlin media now openly refers to U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson as ours for disarming Ukraine. Both the heads of the Foreign Relations Committee, that's McCall, and the House Intelligence Committee have said, look, Russian propaganda has seeped in and is being repeated in Congress now. That's tragic. Okay, I'm going to show you this video, and then I'm going to show you what I think will happen, and you can make up your mind and decide whether this is right or wrong. So let's look at the Russian media monitor, this clip that Jay in Kyiv had flagged for us. This is a longer clip. That was only like 10 seconds. Here's the about 2-minute clip, and we'll stop and talk about it. Thanks as always to the Russian media monitor. Today will be the most important day. I'm just letting you know there will be an event at the Mar-a-Lago in Florida. There they will discuss external funding of Israel, Taiwan, and all the rest. The Speaker of Congress, Mike Johnson, that would be our Johnson. Let's stop there for a moment. She said that would be our Johnson, like our controlled Mike Johnson. Now, Mike Johnson, if you're listening to this, and I'm sure he's not, but if you were, do you really want to show to the world that Russia is saying that they control you like a puppet? I mean, is that really the look that you want? The British one already went there earlier. This one is their local American one. I realize there are too many Johnsons in this world. Anyway, he will go there. It is important because a lot is in limbo right now. They're trying to solve all these issues. Trump has enormous influence on Johnson. Yes, full stop, he does. Why does a presidential candidate have that much effect on him? And we have to stop and think about that. We haven't seen a situation where two presidents, although one's a former president, are running against each other for 100 years. So it's been a long time. So President Trump has a lot more clout than other candidates opposing a sitting president, or a situation where both are not presidents yet up trying to win the office. But the Republicans seem to see President Trump as inevitable. And that's a problem. And that's what's causing them to line up behind him and take counsel from him. Now, that could work out positively or negatively. Now, we would think negatively, but just hold that thought for a moment. This situation with the external funding will be determined there. That's correct. Additionally, there are several projects in limbo, including taxes, which is important for them. From this standpoint, they will discuss it today. It could either give a boost to the process or totally bury these negotiations. And they're hoping that it will totally bury these negotiations and just keep Ukraine funding out of the discussion. Because Trump already spoke out against it, Republicans are already starting to fall away. Without Trump's support, it will be extremely difficult to quickly push this project through. Basically, they will be dealing with that at the end of April, around April 20th or mid-April, which is basically here. It may be brought to a vote. Okay, so they're pretty right in their analysis. At the end of April at the most, from this standpoint, the question can't be solved without an additional boost from Trump. I think that's a pretty fair analysis. They've actually gotten it right. But the trick is that Trump is not loyal, I don't think, to Putin. I think Trump is loyal to Trump. And so he's kind of a wild card because he doesn't have an ideological center or a core. So this is in Nexta. According to Trump, Republicans who are blocking the allocation of aid to Ukraine are discussing this issue. As he noted, quote, "We are thinking about doing it in the form of a loan, not just a gift. Europe should give their money to help Ukraine because they are more affected by it," the former U.S. president also said. Okay, now, what would be a victory for Trump? Because that's the way that Trump's mind works. What would make me look good? Now, I could be wrong. let's just put this right up front. I could be totally wrong, and you can disagree with me if you like. But I think if Trump sees an advantage that he looks better in contrast to Biden by, say, turning this into a loan that then the U.S. taxpayers aren't on the hook for, and he can say, see, we pushed this into a loan and you're not paying for that war and they're still getting it, and see, this is how I negotiate. I think he could see that as a political advantage and move forward with it. Here's another one from Euromaidan Press. Trump's ready to provide aid to Ukraine as a loan, not a gift. He says Republicans could support this and is pressuring Europe to contribute more funding proportionately. Okay, so again, if Trump sees value in positioning himself as having some kind of political advantage because see this deal that I made, and he can use that to run on in the fall, I think he would do it. Just like I think he would not do anything for Ukraine if he saw advantage in that for himself. But he's a wild card, and we'll see what happens with Mike Johnson in the next couple of weeks. If Mike Johnson does nothing, it's probably because he and Trump were talking about it and they see advantage in doing nothing. And if he comes forward with a loan, it's because Trump sees advantage for himself in doing this as a loan. Now, politics is a funny business. The misery is that Ukrainians want to fight, and we told them that we would back them, and we're looking pretty terrible in front of the world. In Afghanistan, they didn't want to fight. In Iraq, they weren't willing to fight. In Vietnam, we couldn't get Vietnamese to fight. President Zim was a terrible person to back, but that was the best that we had. Zelensky and the Ukrainians want to fight, and we're not backing them. And it's tragic. They're getting hammered because they don't have the artillery, they don't have the air defense that they need. And we're not providing it because we're locked up in this, in our own internal politics, and it's tragic. But watch what happens next. See if it converts into a loan and they can get material to the front. Even as a loan, it's better than nothing, and they need it now. They need it yesterday. Now, I'm not convinced that Trump works for Russia, as many of you will say in the comments. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Republican. I'm not voting for Trump. I'm a Reagan Republican. MAGA is something different. I'm not sure exactly how to classify it, but it's other. It's not what traditional Republicans have been. So I'm not defending him because of that. I'm just not convinced that he works for Putin. I'm convinced that Trump works for Trump. And we can all agree on that. Now, before I go, I put this video out a while ago. You can contact Mike Johnson's office and register your desire for him to put this bill on the floor. It's 202-225-2777. You'll probably get an answering machine, but all you need to do is register your desire for him to put this forward. They'll just be counting the numbers of who's for it and who's against it. Thank you for being willing to do that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.